It is April the 24th, and it is an exciting day. Now, could the children come up, please? You gotta come over here. Nothing like me being bossy. Come on. There you go. Yeah, see, wasn't that fun? Okay, stand proud and turn and look around. Okay, aren't you great? Everybody thinks you're great. So, yes, today's word is humility. Now, do either of you want to talk about humility? Or would you like me to talk about humility? Okay, do you know what you just did by saying, giving someone else a chance? That's part of humility. You are sharing with others. It's an attitude, and it begins with being comfortable with yourself. So I like myself. It's knowing that you have special gifts, and you guys do. You're very talented. You respect your body, and you expect others to too. You respect others, and they respect you. So the word is, I am terrific, and you are terrific too. Now let's say that out loud with a lot of oomph in it. I am terrific, and you are terrific too. Thank you. And now, Mama Lou, you can go with Mama Lou to Fun Day School. I just love the children. And there is no board meeting today for those who are on the board, just letting you know that that has been scheduled to a future date. And we have our morning opening affirmation. It is on your yellow sheet. If you want to repeat with me, this is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. I resolve to live this day in peace, in harmony, and in love with all things. I love myself and my world. I find something of joy in every moment. I affirm that life is good, and so am I, and so it is. And now it is my pleasure. We have a special speaker today, Jayme Blenkarn. And she is a ministerial student from Edmonton. And oh, I love your subject. Speaks to my heart and more than my heart. Okay, Jayme, would you like to come up here and tell everyone what's for dinner?
There we go. How's that? All right. I'm not going to touch it because I tend to mess it up when I do. Well, good morning. Well, I am really excited to be here, and I won't lie, I'm a little bit nervous, but somebody out in the lobby reminded me that nerves is just excitement, and I think it's excitement without the breath. So I'm going to ask you to take a nice collective deep breath with me. Just to grounding myself to connect with you, and Thank Reverend Judy for the amazing meditation. I think you are a person with the most powerful Om that I've ever experienced, and I feel grateful for that experience. So what's for dinner? I don't know about you, but traditionally Sunday night dinner was a big thing where I grew up. I don't know if we still do that. And we're going to talk more about what's for dinner at the end of the talk. I'm going to talk a little bit about books. How many of you love books? I would expect to see just about 99% of you. I love books. I've got dozens and dozens of books. I even have a few that I haven't read yet. You know, sometimes I go to the bookstore, I get a book, and it's got a catchy cover and maybe a really intriguing title, and I read the back of the book, and I decide, wow, that looks like a fabulous book. I buy it, but I never really read it. Sometimes I just start it, but then, well, it doesn't really resonate with me, so I just put it back on the shelf, and I may have had it for 20 years and never gone back to it. I have a tough time parting with my books. So what are you reading lately? And are you learning something new? Or escaping to somewhere amazing? So there are times when I can get totally lost in a book, and I love that feeling. And I can truly embody what I'm reading. And actually, I have been reading a bit of Mary Oliver, who's a wonderful poet, who I've rediscovered, and fabulous. I've also discovered John O'Donohue, who's quite amazing, and I'm going to share one of his poems with you. It's called For Solitude. And I'm going to invite you to just, if you can, close your eyes and embody this reading if you can. And if it resonates with you, that's awesome. If it doesn't, just let it fall away. May you recognize in your life the presence, power, and light of your soul. May you realize that you are never alone, that your soul, in its brightness and belonging, connects you intimately with the rhythm of the universe. May you have respect for your individuality and difference. May you realize that the shape of your soul is unique, that you have a special destiny here. And behind the facade of your life, there is something beautiful and eternal happening. May you learn to see yourself with the same delight, pride, and expectation with which God sees you in every moment. And may you know you are terrific. Are you feeling terrific? Excellent. So these words touch me somewhere in a place without words. But what I like to read is no doubt very different than what you like to read, because we all have personal preferences. But I won't like you less because you don't like what I read. I just hope that we both read and that we love what we read. That's really, truly living. But I'm talking about real reading, the embodying reading, that I think that is reading, just reading for the sake of reading, and then there's actually sacred reading. Have anybody experienced sacred reading, that book that you can't put down? Sometimes I come across a book where I actually just put it right next to my pillow because I just want to hold it close to me. There was something that resonated in there that was incredibly powerful. So I believe that there's embracing a book, and then there's embodying a book, and then full-on emboldening a book. And in Edmonton, our words are embrace, embody, and embolden, so you're going to hear those words in my talk. And some of these books I can feel in my bones. So maybe it's not reading, but do you have a hobby or something that you do that resonates with you so deeply that you can feel it in your bones when you're participating in it? Anybody? Can you share? Anybody willing to share? You can put your hand up, you don't have to share. Anybody willing to share? Something you do that you love? Music. Music's a really good example. Anything else? Some people might be riding a bike, going for a walk, petting the dog, playing with the cat. What do you do that is your passion? Bodybuilding. Well, I could use some of that. Wonderful. Painting, yeah, anything creative, I would hope comes up as something that is in your bones. And it's almost like you're not happy unless you're doing it. Wow, and that's truly living. So I believe embodying something is a feeling. It's a feeling in your bones, and then you allow it to shine through you as your expression into the world, into the universe. And you share that deepest part of yourself with the world. Isn't it almost a part of who you are? Now, I haven't always loved books because I didn't always have access to them. I grew up on a farm in rural Alberta, and I do remember clearly 2 books that we had on the farm. One was the Webster's Dictionary, actually it might have been the Thornton Wilder Dictionary, and my mother's recipe book. We didn't have many children's books in our home. My kids had hundreds of books. We had Ootpuk, the oogling Arctic owl, and I still have that one. And we had one of the little golden books, the Pokey Little Puppy, I believe. Those were the only 2 books we had. But it was rural Alberta, and we didn't have a bookstore. But we could check out books at the library. And I really loved Curious George and the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew. Those were just some of my favorites and my preferences. And whatever you took home would have been totally different. But then, eventually, I could actually buy books from the monthly book club. Do you remember that? Once a month, we got a catalog, the Scholastic Book Club, I think it was called, and I loved that. And I remember how I felt inside when I could see that catalog sitting on the teacher's desk. And it seemed like days, hours before that she ever handed it out. I'd be like, what is she waiting for? It's right there. Because I couldn't wait. And I had this inner joy and anticipation that was palpable, and I could actually, even now, I can smell the ink of that little catalog. And then weeks later, the book would arrive, and I couldn't wait to get off the school bus and run up into my room and read. And that was really when my deep love for books took off, when I could pick my own. And I suddenly had a freedom of a choice I could make that sometimes we don't get until adulthood. You know, my mom would give me $1.49 and I get to pick any book I want. They didn't look at what I was buying. That was a really true sense of freedom that I remember at a young age. The freedom to choose what I could read. And some of all my all-time favorite books still were from that magazine. One was the story of Helen Keller, for sure, and I kept that one for years. And many of these books I not only embraced, I embodied them. And as I read every word or reread them multiple times, I somehow felt them on a really deep level. And I don't have a name for that place because it's indescribable to me. Do you ever get that feeling from something or some experience? And I sometimes think, well, it's almost like a country song for those of you that are from rural Alberta. But there's this joy and happiness and truth and this bone-deep resonance of doing the things that we love. And can you breathe in that love and passion for the things that bring you joy every day? The best books inspire us, motivate us, entertain us, educate us, allow us to escape, to be happily distracted by the busyness of life, sometimes maybe even avoid life. And to some level, that's not a bad thing. Now, I can read, or I can deeply read, and I call it sacred reading, where I go for a deep soul resonance. It brings me personal nourishment. And there's a connection there to dinner that we'll find. It's a sustenance. So we had that old dictionary, and we had my mom's cook recipe book. This was my mom's very first cookbook. Probably the summer of 1952 was the year my mom and dad got married. And I believe this was a bridal gift from the ladies in the community. And each one is typed out, probably on an old Underwood typewriter. And each recipe actually has the name of the lady that contributed the recipe. And most of these wonderful people are not here anymore. But I know their children and I know their grandchildren. Most of these recipes, if you were lucky, the odd one maybe came with instructions. I don't know what it was about in the 50s with recipes, there are never any instructions. So it was a hit or miss experience for me. It's also maybe another talk title. But each recipe makes this book a treasure. And this book is almost exactly 70 years old. It's a huge treasure. And I actually don't think my mother ever used it. I think she retyped it because she had 5 kids in the house and she didn't want us spilling flour and butter and sugar on it. Because this looks almost, oh, no, there's some chocolate. I see it right there. Maybe that was the day she decided to retype it and have a working copy. You know, in an old Underwood, how long it would take you to retype this recipe book. Now, I'm sure most of these recipes weren't original recipes. They were probably handed down from one generation to the next. Some of them were probably plagiarized right out of the Country Woman magazine. And really, who figures out these recipes? Who thinks of that? We just get a recipe and we go and do it, right? We don't think about how somebody came up with this idea. My family had a recipe, it's not in here, but it was called Crazy Cracker Cake. It's a family favorite. I have no idea where the recipe came from. I think it probably came off the Mr. Christie cracker box because 50% of the ingredients is crushed up crackers. It was somebody's new creation, somebody's new idea. And I don't know who that undiscovered genius was, but I'm here reaping the benefits of somebody else's imagination. And we've been making that recipe since the early 70s. So what is that one recipe that you love deeply? Can you think of one? That if you were only going to make one dish tonight for supper, what would it be? When it comes to food and recipes, just like reading, I believe there's eating, real eating, and sacred reading. There's eating, real eating, and sacred eating. Does that make sense? And how often do you have the opportunity to sit and consider what your dinner is as sacred? And very often it's not just the dish before you that's sacred, it's the people you're sharing it with that make it sacred. Okay. When the nourishment, the sustenance of each bite impacts your taste buds in that bone-deep place, it fascinates me that somebody had the fortitude to create recipes for us. I didn't have to do the work. I just had to embrace the idea and try the recipe. Now, Crazy Cracker Cake hasn't been around for all of eternity. Someone decided from a very long list of potential ingredients to create it. There are probably hundreds, if not thousands, of ingredients available to create that cake. And someone, obviously one of my heroes, decided to take 10 or 12 ingredients of some ideal quantity, mix them together in perfect order and method, cook it or not cook it at the right temperature for the perfect number of minutes, and then just eat it. No one in their right mind would put peanut butter, melted chocolate chips, raw eggs, instant coffee, crushed crackers, and icing sugar together. Nobody. That's an absurd idea. Yet there it was. Original recipes probably took some trial and error. Or did somebody just fluke out? It amazes me. I know I couldn't do that. I doubt I could just make up a recipe. Has anybody ever tried to just create something? Did it work? I don't think I would do it. I don't think I would try. Well, I shouldn't say that. I know what would happen. I would have a big blob of clay-like substance in a pan that the dog probably wouldn't even eat. So I admire people that have that creativity, passion, and brilliance to do that. So recipes, like books, are truly a gift to us because somebody figured it out for us. We didn't have to go through the failures of creating it. We have favorite recipes, we have favorite books, and just like our personal taste for books, recipes have to resonate with us. They have to satisfy our own palate. Food nourishes us and sustains us. But the food that we love nourishes us in a different way. I want to live like an adventure. I want to read books that I can't put down. I want to try recipes that make my taste buds dance. I used to cut recipes out of the magazines. I'd see a catchy, delicious picture or an intriguing recipe name. I would read the caption on it and I think, oh, I gotta try this. But just like the books that caught my eye that I never read, some of those recipes I never tried, I probably still have them tucked away. For a lot of my life, I stuck to the old meat and potatoes because I was a farm kid. Okay? I was well into my 40s before I discovered the joy of some food that I had refused to try. Mushrooms, zucchini, asparagus. I just needed the right recipe. I had to choose. I had to choose to try them. And I can embrace them now. I can actually even embody them. I've learned to love them. I had to decide to take a chance and really try them without some preconceived idea about them that they were going to be terrible. And that was an important life lesson for me. Now I'm grateful for every author of every book that I've loved. And I'm grateful for every cook, the people who were inspired or motivated to create stories and dishes for my enjoyment, my nourishment, physically and mentally. I didn't have to do the hard work. Someone creates the recipes in the books. Now this leads me to the most underrated book. What do you think is the most amazing book ever written? Anybody want to share? It's the most amazing book that if you could look back on your life, it would be the only book you would really wanted to have read. The Bible definitely is right in the list, probably the top 10. Course in Miracles, another good one. Okay. Some might say the Science of Mind textbook. Others would say the Quran or the Talmud. For me, the greatest book ever written was the Webster's Canadian Dictionary. Now, you weren't expecting that, were you? Because just like a giant list of ingredients, it is used to create each and every book. Each and every book that you've read in English came out of some magical recipe from the English dictionary. So just think about that for a minute. Every English book you have ever read is the creative genius of someone who pulled out several hundred words, repeated them, mixed and stirred them, and ta-da, a book. But not just a book any more than a recipe is just a recipe. Someone was inspired, motivated to assemble those ingredients, put together those words by desire, intuition, creativity, and imagination. So what do books and recipes have to do with the spiritual journey? Choosing a book by reading the back cover at a bookstore, or choosing to print off a yummy recipe off of the internet. What good is that step if I don't read the book? If I don't try the recipe? I am free to shop for books, and I am free to collect recipes, and I can embrace the idea of them, but I don't always embody them. There is reading, and then there is real reading. There is eating, and then there is sacred eating. Now, I church shopped for most of my adult life. I looked for the catchy churches with intriguing names. Then I looked at them on the surface. But until I got to this teaching, I wasn't embodying my spiritual journey. And that happened about 12 years ago. And I could talk to you all day about how that's changed my life. I had to find the one that was more than a catchy picture on a cover or an intriguing name. I had to find the one that resonated with me, one that was bone-deep truth. I Googled the major religions to prepare this talk. And depending on the source I looked at, there were 5, 6, 7, maybe 12 major religions, and then hundreds of variations. Now, the numbers don't really matter that much. But the catch of all catches for me, there are 2 incredible words in this dictionary. Maybe neither of which are defined to the full depth that I would like them to be. One on page 128. Start with that one. Anybody want to guess what the word is? Starts with a D. Divine. Being in praise of God. Religious, holy, like a God. Very good. Of or relating to God or a God. The divine. What does the divine mean to you? second word that I also think is equally important is the word prayer. And what does the word prayer mean to you if you drop away all the baggage? Prayer. Words spoken to God, the act of praying to God, a strong hope or wish, a set form of words used in praying a religious service that is mostly prayer. Now, I think the dictionary is maybe lacking in terms of articulating the word divine and prayer to my truth or yours. You get to decide. Someone took these two words and gave them meaning. They used their intuition, used their imagination, their creativity, but somebody gave them a meaning. That was their meaning, not necessarily mine. They designed a spiritual recipe for our inner spiritual nourishment, our sustenance, our spiritual dinner. Not every idea resonates with me, but I get to choose. We each get to choose which books we read. That's freedom. We each get to choose which recipes we try. That's freedom. We get to embrace the spiritual tools, principles, and concepts that resonate with us. That is absolute freedom. I get to choose what teaching makes my spiritual taste buds dance. I'm going to say it again. I get to choose what teaching makes my spiritual taste buds dance. I chose this teaching, and this teaching has changed everything about my life, my work, my relationships, how and where I live, and the choices that I make. The friendships that I've kept or not kept, my prosperity, my ability to manage stress and grief has changed completely. Using the tools and principles, not just believing in prayer, but genuinely trying prayer, real prayer, sacred prayer. I chose what the divine means to me, that's freedom, and I chose what prayer means to me. It's also freedom. And you can too. But, and there's always a but, it didn't work for me. Until I sat with it like a good book, until I sunk my teeth into it like the first bite of an incredible recipe. Until I put down the idea of why it wouldn't work and embraced the idea that it would work for me. Quite simply, Ernest Holmes did teach how and why to pray, but ultimately he gave us a choice. He really wanted us to embrace the idea of prayer, to test it, to try it, and to prove it to ourselves. That was his genius. He knew if I tried it, really tried it, and embraced it, he knew that because the law and principles are indisputable, he knew that it would work if I used it. And there is nothing more powerful than proving something to yourself. And I could ask 100 ministers how to pray, why I should pray. I could even ask them to prove it to me. But ultimately, I wouldn't have believed them. I wouldn't have believed it until I proved it to myself. I have tried mindless, habitual, rote, routine, mechanical, automated, tedious, monotone ways of eating, reading, and praying. There's a big difference between praying and sacred praying. But my life is far richer, exciting, authentic, and exquisite, with real reading, and perhaps even what I call sacred reading, and real eating, sacred eating. Real praying, living real spiritual principles every day, embracing them and embodying them. So I'd like to close with a short meditation. I don't have music, so we're going to do it in silence, and I invite you to close your eyes, and I'm going to invite you to just take my words, and if they resonate with you, that's wonderful, and if they don't, just take this opportunity to be still. So there is this place. There is this place within, a particular indescribable place where the outermost layer of your bones meets to dance effortlessly with the muscles of your body. They are great partners. They are conjoined, perfectly designed for this physical dance called life, wherein that coming together also lies the deep inner sense, that joy of being alive. And also lies there the faint restlessness of not being quite alive enough, where love and loss meet in such a way that even the most articulate are left staring speechlessly into the sunset as the accumulation of life experience, the passing of time, leave entwined the painted layers of both ecstasy and sorrow, where only soul deep breathing, that deep, deep Om, can faintly touch what lies there. But when we do it, touch it, it is bold, with simultaneous and instantaneous grateful smiles and the glistening of tears, where truth appears clear and perfect, where nothing but the tendons of gratitude can seem to keep them functioning in sync, where marrow deep you find the memories of all that you've had. Memories, they accumulate there. What you had with the memories of what you never had, or once had, but then had taken away by no fault of your own, or perhaps some of those too. There where the dance of life pushes and pokes and prods us out of our own fearfully created mundane existence, stirs our passion and ignites the fire of our dreams, where sorrowful poems are written and joyful songs are sung, reminding us to get up, then to get up again, to get up and get going toward the life we were born to live with purpose and intention, to dance inwardly and outwardly. Can you hear that inner music? It is the music of your soul, calling you to dance. Remember this, you have this one and only dance, this place in you, your spiritual marrow. Sometimes feels like getting old or getting tired. Perhaps it is often the place that feels like getting alive and getting real, getting honest about this journey, and the one waywardness of it, the irritating rub like sand on paper, warning us that the flow of the grains of sand in an hourglass run out. No one can flip it for us. There is this indescribable place, lies grace waiting for you to say yes. Yes to its presence, yes to its gifts, and yes to its power. Yes to your life. Say yes. Whisper yes. Or shout yes. Shout it out loud, so loudly that it reverberates there where your bones meet your muscles. And you never forget the yes that you proclaim now in this moment to live your life so amazingly that you surprise yourself. You surprise those closest to you. Say yes so loudly that you surprise yourself. Stop and promise right here, right now, to dance your song. The dance of your one life. Dance to the song of your soul. Don't ask where, what, when, and how. Truly, you already know all of that. Don't stop to find your best shoes, comb your hair, or brush your teeth, because no one cares. Or no one that matters cares. Go dance barefoot in the grass, or wherever your feet land. You'll be so busy dancing that you won't feel the sharpness of the pebbles or the heat of the pavement. You will have no time for explaining and complaining, as you got dancing to do. Your song is waiting for you. You can hear it in the silence, in the stillness. Listen, then go. Reveal the lyrics of your life in the melody of your being and the notes of you, knowing it has been waiting for you to hear it since you took your first breath. Release the anchors of fear. They are a false sense of safety, and you no longer need them. Say yes. I invite you to open your eyes. Now, I had to choose. I had to take a chance. Then I had to make changes, and there was no looking back. My spiritual taste buds dance every day. Well, just about every day. Even on the hard days. And I had to embrace and embody life. And I welcome the complete embodiment. This is an adventure. This is an adventure called life. Let's live it with our hearts. Let's go figure out what's for dinner and make it sacred. Namaste.
Well, thank you, Jayme. Getting close to being Reverend Jayme.
Thank you.
She is in her final year of study toward her ministry. So let's give her another hand, knowing her success. Thank you. Great message. And you're talking about books was very personal to me. I spent my whole childhood wishing I could just stay home and read all day and all night. So thank you for that. We're coming into the prosperity portion of our program. And of course, we'll begin by reading our prosperity affirmation. All good is mine today. This is my belief, and in it I stand firm. I am healthy, prosperous, loving, and wise. The spirit is willing, and I am willing. I breathe deeply, give freely, and receive greatly. My life itself is a gift for which I am truly thankful, and so it is. And if you have an offering to deposit, we have the basket right up front here after the service. Just drop your envelope in the basket. That's a practice we developed during COVID, and it seems to work. So thank you for whatever you choose to share with our center. And now Reverend Gail has something she wants to say. Yes, you do.
No, I don't. I can talk very loud. I know it's past time, but I had a birthday at the end of February, and I just wanted to thank the people that came out to it. It was held at our place of business, which is a greenhouse. My daughter and her daughters planned it. I knew nothing, absolutely nothing. I was so surprised. I was almost ill. But anyway, I just want to thank everybody that was here, and I really appreciate you coming out, because I know that everybody has lots of things going on, so you didn't have to come there, but I do appreciate you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Gail. And thank you for your service and your dedication to our center for many, many years.
You are welcome.
All right, let's move into our closing affirmation. Rejoicing, I go my way, choosing thoughts and words of kindness and encouragement. I praise generously and love deeply, even as I am loved. Life is wonderful. I am wonderful. God is the wonder of it all, and so it is. And just one little announcement. We'll meet in the social hall for coffee and cookies and fellowship time as soon as we're closed. So, a closing spiritual mind treatment. Please know with me the good of this day, the good of each moment, the good of each breath, the good of each mouthful of precious nourishment, every breath of our perfect and blessed air. Please know the good of each person in our experience. Let us know the good of the sunshine, the good of the rain, the good of the grass and the trees unfolding in their own right and perfect time. Let us know the good of our world and the good of our God. And so it is.